What's going on, my dudes? This video is going to be about tilt, and I'm just going to warn you up front, I'm probably going to tilt a lot of you with my recommendations. Recommendations are coming from my background as personal training and coach, specifically in the behavioral change specialization that I hold. I work with a ton of athletes that get tilted very, very easily. A big part of that is because of the pressure and the situations they get put in on a daily basis. This is something that can transfer effectively to gamers, and I believe these tips will help you overcome, or at least recognize, which is the start of overcoming your own personal tilt. So without further ado, let's get into this video about tilt. So first things first, we need to identify what we're working with. Tilt. Now this was originally a term that came from poker. It's when someone is being aggressively put into a negative situation. It causes an emotional reaction. Someone's confused, they don't understand what's going on, something's going out of their normal patterns. Those things cause the player to become, in air quotes here, tilted, meaning that you are now at an emotional disadvantage, meaning your gameplay will probably suffer because of that disadvantage. That's something that is very common in gaming as well. It transfers really well. That brings me to my first tip. Learn to redirect your tilt. Now, we've all had teammates before. They get overly passionate about this video game. The minute that something doesn't go their way, they're screaming and hollering into the microphone. That is not an effective way of communicating anything. So the best advice I can give you up front is learn how to redirect that anger, that confusion, into something that's productive for your teammates so they at least have a fighting chance of doing better. Tilt is absolutely contagious, similar to toxic behavior. So what I need you guys to start practicing immediately is a redirect. Take the anger that you feel and put it into proper communication. I don't care if you yell, curse, and scream their location to me, but if you're yelling about how this was unfair, about how that was stupid, the video game hates you, you're not helping me. And that's not going to help us win the round. All that does is change my mentality in a stupidly aggressive state, and then I'm now kind of going down the rabbit hole with you, right? So redirect your tilt into something productive. Best advice I can give you up front for tip number one. Tip number two, take responsibility for yourself. I call this aggressive accountability. If you're playing this video game, you understand that there's people that play this PvP stuff all day long. That's literally what they get paid to do. So if you are not willing to put in the time and effort and practice, as per my previous videos and what these people are doing to become this professional level, take responsibility of that. You don't have the time, you don't have this, you don't have that. I don't give a damn about the excuses. I just need you to recognize the fact that you have not put in the same amount of work that they are currently putting in. Secondary, taking responsibility for making a bad play. That is the first level of commitment to recognition that you did something wrong, and it can be corrected. It's always going to be a learning moment. Identify that you were outside of cover, identify you were too far away from your teammates, take responsibility for what you did in that particular moment. Now, are there going to be moments when you couldn't have done anything differently? Absolutely. I don't know anybody with a 100% win ratio. But there are chances for you to improve so that you do not become tilted when you start thinking in terms of, this was my fault and I can do better. So that's tip number two. Take aggressive accountability for yourself. Tip number three, accept the things that are out of your control. Now, I used to play volleyball. You guys might not know that, but I played all over the United States. I've even played over in Vegas. That's not bad for a guy that's 5'9" with his shoes on, okay? So, beach volleyball, I've won tournaments and stuff like that. I always knew the variables of the game that were not within my control. You try to minimize, you try to practice, you try to get better. The wind is not something I control. The sun's location in accordance to where the net is at, between switching sides, those are things that you can do nothing about. Video games has a similar antic. The server stability, you don't control that. Skill-based matchmaking, you have nothing to do with that, okay? That's all Bungie. The game itself error codes you for no reason. The game will beat you more than the players, and that's been my understanding of this. I understand there is nothing I can do to change that, so it's not worth my energy to get mad over it. Just accept it, maybe step away for a little bit, maybe take some of the advice from the big YouTubers and go touch some grass, apparently that's healthy, and then come back later when you're in a little bit more of a calm state of mind. Again, I've made an entire video about Destiny burnout. There is no shame in taking a break, staying humble about what your mental needs are and what your capacity is to handle this type of stress, okay? So that is tip number three. My fourth and final tip about tilt, and this is a big one, especially when it comes down to newer players, when it comes down to call them noobs, call them whatever you want, people that have not been as experienced into this video game as others. Accept the fact of your reality. Now, with newer athletes, I see this type of thing a lot. Somebody will do really, really well and then expect that they're one day going to go pro. The reality is that's not likely to happen. And I don't mean that to be a negative, I mean that as a realistic objective. I don't know of all the variables involved of someone that can go professional in today's world, but the best equivalent I can give you came from a CrossFit star named Rich Froning. You can't shoot a couple of free throws and think one day you're going to play in the NBA. Destiny 2 and a lot of these FPS games work in that same mental capacity. You can't play a few games, have a couple of really good games, and think that you're going to be able to beat Grenade or Jake, or say Walla. It's not likely. So accept the reality of where you're at, and that you have a lot of practice to do. So treat yourself in that capacity of I'm learning, and I'm growing, and I'm testing new things, and I'm constantly trying to adjust my gameplay so I become better. So when the day comes that you fight against one of those guys, you have an actual chance. You have a legitimate shot. And if you lose to them, which is the likely probability here, at least you would have continued learning something more. That mentality can take you really far, not just with this video game, and I mean with anything. I'm a master level trainer, and I'm still learning new concepts from some of these kids coming just out of college. They have access to different things to me. I never would have considered exercise in outer space, for example. That was a cool concept that I got to cover with one of the interns that's currently working with me. That's pretty freaking cool. Anyway, that is this video. 4 tips right there about helping you control tilt based on behavioral science. Hopefully you guys found this beneficial. If you have any questions, comments, leave them in the comment section down below. You know I love all you guys. Keep it zen out there. Any questions, let me know. Subscribe, hit the bell, all the things. That way I'll continue making more videos like this, and hopefully you guys are benefiting from some of this and finding something positive out of it. Alright guys, again, love all you guys, keep it zen out there. I will see you in the next one.